Okay, all right. So, dulce et decorum est. It simply means it's honorable to die for your country. It's honorable to die. Dulce et decorum est. The full sentence is given at the end of the poem. Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. If you die for your country, patria, if you die for your fatherland, if you die for your country, then it's a decorous act. It's an act of uh, pride. It's an honorable act if you die for your country. So, uh, and this is of course an anti-war poem, and we will see why it's an anti-war poem. And ironically, and this is the an issue with naming things, because Owen has been known to us as a war poet or war poetry, and not as anti-war poets or anti-war poetry. I mean, it's not traditionally said so. I mean, if you take up any history of English literature book, you will find that Owen is listed under war poetry, but not anti-war poetry. Okay, so we can write anti within the brackets. Bent double, like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Bent double, bent over, just like beggars. We see beggars bent over, trying, seeking alms, who are bent double like old beggars. Who are these people? Who are bent double? You can mention it in the chat box. They are not veterans, they are soldiers. The soldiers are bent double. They are so tired, they are so exhausted that they could not keep a straight figure. They are barely walking. Their heads are drooping. Okay? And they are being compared with old beggars. Old people have, you know, arched back, arched spine. The spine is um, bent, and so is their spines bent, these soldiers, because they are carrying heavy weight on their shoulders, on their backs, or they are carrying their dead brothers. They are carrying their peers who are dead. Knock kneed. Their knees are knocking at each other. They are shagging under the weight of the equipments, or they are shagging under the weight of the dead bodies that they are carrying. They are coughing like hags. They are coughing like old women, witches, and they are cursing through sludge. Sludge is a kind of a semi-solid mud. Till on the haunting flares. Why are the flares haunting? What are flares? Anyone? What are flares? Flares, flares. কেন ব্যবহার করা হয় flares? Flare guns, yes, the flares that come out of the flare guns. Why are they used?
সেলফ ডিফেন্সের জন্য।
সেলফ ডিফেন্সের জন্য, মানে ফ্লেয়ার গান দিয়ে মেরে ডিফেন্স করার কথা বলছো? Yes, to give signal. But what signal? In a war, while a war is going on at night, Why would you use flare guns? Why would you use flares? Okay, SOS is one of the uses for the flares, but no, this is not a signal to start a war. What happens that during the night, if you are moving towards your enemy trenches, First World War, it's all about trench warfare, and soldiers would come out at night, try to cross to the other trench, and try to kill the sleeping soldiers. But if you fire the flare towards the sky, it will burst in the air and it will give you a light for a few seconds. It's like a cracker. ক্র্যাকারটা যখন বার্স্ট করে তখন দেখবে কিছুক্ষণের জন্য হালকা একটা আলো আমরা দেখতে পাই, আর ওই আলোতে যদি কেউ আমাদের দিকে আসতে থাকে, আমাদের ট্রেঞ্চের দিকে আসতে থাকে, তাহলে আমরা বুঝতে পারবো এবং ওই আলোটা দিয়ে স্পট করে যে সোলজারটা আমাদের দিকে এগিয়ে আসছে তাকে আমরা গুলি মেরে দিতে পারি. দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই দ্য ফ্লেয়ার্স ওয়ার ইউজড. অ্যান্ড সি হিয়ার Owen is saying that it's a haunting flares. Why haunting? Because it is coming after, relentlessly after the soldiers. But they are turning their backs against the flares. ফ্লেয়ার্সটা জ্বলছে, ফ্লেয়ার্সগুলো আকাশে জ্বলছে, এনিমিরা ওদেরকে স্পট করার চেষ্টা করছে, কিন্তু ওরা মানে পিঠ ফিরে ওরা ফেরত যাচ্ছে. দে আর নট গোয়িং টুয়ার্ডস দ্য ট্রেঞ্চেস, রাদার দে আর গোয়িং অ্যাওয়ে ফ্রম দ্য এনিমি. Where are they going? They are going towards their distant rest. মানে তারা তাদের ইয়ের দিকে যাচ্ছে, টেন্টসগুলোর দিকে যাচ্ছে যেখানে তারা রেস্ট নিতে পারবে. They can rest over there. And towards our distant rest began to trudge. Trudge is painfully walking. When you cannot walk anymore but you have to walk, it's like going on the pandal hopping or the puja watching, the Durga Puja watching spree. You cannot walk anymore, but you are still, making your feet move ever so painfully, and that is the trudging. And look at this assonance: sludge, trudge, or rather, I'm sorry, there's no assonance, there is actually a rhyming thing going on, but Owen is particularly famous for his assonance. Assonance is a prosodic device where you think that successive lines will rhyme, but they do not. Okay, but in this case, sludge and trudge, sacks and backs, they are rhyming. Men marched asleep. Look at the pitiable condition of these soldiers. They are marching in sleep. They are not awake. Exhaustion has made them so weak. Exhaustion has made them so so damaged that they are walking in sleep. They are marching in sleep. When we march, we are very awake, we are very alert, but a soldier's life, you march for, I don't know, 50 kilometers a day, 100 kilometers a day, when you cannot march anymore and you fall asleep and the legs keep walking because of muscle memory. Many had lost their boots but limped on, bloodshot. Many soldiers have lost their boots, but still they are, marching towards a particular destination. Their legs are badly wounded because of the spikes and the stones and whatever is on their way. All went lame. Every soldier became lame. All became blind because they are asleep. Drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. They don't care anymore. They can't care anymore. Even when gas shells are dropping softly behind them, in the First World War, gas was used to attack each other. People, enemies, armies would throw gas shells at each other, nerve gas, to kill each other. And people used to run away when a gas shell would drop behind them or drop at their feet. And but these people who are drunk with fatigue, drunk to the full, they are deaf. They have become deaf, they have become blind, they have become lame. Now, this is a, I'm sure studies have been done on this aspect of Owen's poetry, which addresses disability resulting from war. So it's not just one thing that has gone wrong. They are deaf, they are lame, they are blind. Anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. And killer shells, gas shells, are dropping behind them, and they cannot care less. They're just walking. They're like zombies. Okay. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time, but somehow someone still yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. But then somebody screams, gas, gas, quick boys, run. So everybody starts to fumble. They're trying to fit their helmets. I don't know what good will helmets do in against gas. They were trying to fit their helmets, scrambling to get to safety. But someone was lost in the gas cloud, and that person was yelling and stumbling. He has lost his direction. He cannot find the way out anymore, and he's going to die. And he's floundering like a man in fire or lime. Like a man in fire has no sense left, and he just wants to live. He just wants to survive somehow. But there is hardly anything that could help the man on fire or the man on lime. Lime is a burning chemical. So, just like a man on fire or a man in lime, this person who has been gassed is floundering. He does not know where to go, he does not know what to do. And this man is a symbol for the lost generation. This man is a symbol for the lost philosophy or the lost ideals of humanity. Humanity too is yelling, is stumbling, is floundering, and not finding its way, and they are engaging in war, not going in the right direction, going in the wrong direction. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. Owen saw that person falling down, being gassed. The panes are misty. Whatever he could see was full of mist and green light. There was the light of the flare, and the gas was green in color. So the light of the flare made made the green light appear. It made the gas seem to be alighted, and the the gaseous atmosphere is being compared with a green sea. Brilliant metaphor. And in that green sea, Owen saw the soldier who was yelling and stumbling, dying, drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. So, this traumatic event that he went through, this trauma, kept coming back to him in dreams. He was helpless to help him. But every time he goes to sleep, he observed this soldier plunging at him, trying to come at him, trying to hold him so that he could be saved, so that Owen could save him. But he couldn't be saved, and there was a guttering sound in his uh, throat. He was choking on his blood, and he was drowning in his own sweat. He was drowning in his own vomit. That's what happens when you are gassed. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil's sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of wile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. When will you stop crying? When will you stop glorifying war? At what point will you realize that war is not something that has to be glorified, that has any glory at all? When in your dreams you could walk behind the wagon where the soldier's body was loaded, where you could watch the whites of his eyes writhing in his face, the eyes could not even close before he died. When you die in utmost pain, your eyes stay wide open. His face was hanging. His 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 face had come loose. How did it look? Like a devil's sick of sin. Like the face of that painting. I think by I don't remember the name. Was it who committed suicide? Van Gogh. I don't know. The shout or the scream, if you remember that image, if you remember that picture, maybe his face was like that. The jaw had come loose from the mouth. If you could hear at every jolt, so since the wagon is moving on a bumpy road, and uh, the there's a jolt of the wagon, and the blood comes gargling, like the blood has clotted inside his lungs. আর জলের বোতলটাকে নাড়ালে যেমন আওয়াজ হয়, তেমনি ব্লাডটা ওর শরীরের মধ্যে নড়ছে. Imagine the sound, imagine the pain from the froth corrupted lungs. So the lungs have been corrupted, water and bile and pus and blood has accumulated in the lungs, and they are making this gargling sound. It is obscene as cancer, it is bitter as the cud of wile, যেটার মুখ থেকে গ্যাঁজলার মতন বেরোচ্ছে, রক্তর মতন বেরোচ্ছে, পাসের মতন বেরোচ্ছে. It's vile, it's traumatic, it's obscene. It once you see it, your whole life will be ruined. Incurable sores on innocent tongues. These boys were 17, 18, 20, 22, like your age, 22 maybe, and they had sores, they had boils on their faces because of the gas. If you see all these things, then you will not say with such a high jest to children who think that war is something glorious, this fact, this lie, that it is sweet to die for your country. I believe this is one of the most uh, I would say one of the most hard hitting anti war poem that is. Okay? Any questions? Okay, I believe you are too exhausted, maybe exhausted like the soldiers, to ask for questions. So we will end this class here today, and I will post the recordings in the group via YouTube so that you can hear it later on also. So you may leave the meeting for now.